Joining me today is Jeff Feingold, who's the editor of the New Hampshire Business Review. Jeff, thanks so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
I want to talk a lot of things about business in New Hampshire, maybe even a little bit of the region, but I want to start with something that we're seeing in the legislature, the Medicaid expansion. Have businesses, in your reporting, have they been generally in favor of it, against it, neutral? Where do they stand, and how do you guys see it affecting the business community in New Hampshire?
Well, it's interesting because this has been an issue for a few years now in the legislature, and what happened was that a lot of the business organizations, and I'm talking about the big ones like Business and Industry Association, which is the largest business organization in the state, New Hampshire High Tech Council, and several others, came in support of the New Hampshire Health Protection Program, which is was Medicaid expansion, because they see it as having a direct result in lowering or potentially lowering their insurance premiums. Because as we know, most of the insurance that's provided in the state is provided by employers. Either in the old days they paid a lot of it, but now it's not so much.
It depends on the employer and the contract, I guess.
But they're still providing a certain percentage of it to their employees, and they're looking for the best premium.
Well, and that's that cost shifting issue.
That's right, exactly. And what they saw was that if more people were able to get insurance who couldn't afford it previously, people who were eligible for Medicaid expansion, actually most of them were working. They call the working poor, people who just have jobs, but either their employer doesn't provide it or they can't afford to have insurance. They historically use emergency rooms and other hospital services, and that they don't have insurance, so that stuff gets absorbed by the hospital. And the argument is that those costs are shifted, as you said, to the people who are paying the benefits, the insurance
then shifted
premiums.
To the insurance.
Exactly.
And then shifted to the business.
Exactly. And so that's the argument, and that's been a pretty strong argument, and they've been very much out in front on this in wanting to expand Medicaid. There are some businesses, I'm talking about business organizations, the people who are doing the lobbying in Concord. Yep. Obviously individual business people, you can't figure out.
If they're 100, they're going to 100 different opinions.
They're going to be like everybody else. It's going to be like everybody else. But in terms of the organizations themselves, the lobbying groups, for the most part, they have been behind Medicaid expansion.
And do you think it's really ultimately going to be good for business?
I happen to think the argument they're using is correct. And I also, another reason why I think it's good for businesses, it brings in hundreds of millions of dollars in federal money into our healthcare economy and our economy, because the federal government had provided 100% of the payment. Now it's going to be 90%, which is why they'd have to renew it because.
That's right. When it went from 100% to 90%, the bill expired. That's right. And I guess in 2 years, if this current bill gets signed by the governor, it's only a 2-year bill either.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
They'll have to go through the whole thing all over again. It's very New Hampshire type of a solution here. Keep kicking things down.
Well, or just waiting to see how the lay of the landscape is.
Exactly. But we're talking about a lot of money coming into the state economy on this that hadn't been there before, and I would argue that that's one of the reasons that the hospitals were pretty eager to say, okay, in this solution that they've come up with that was approved by the New Hampshire House and sent to the Senate earlier this month, basically the hospitals are going to kick in some money, and so will the insurers, to help cover this instead of having to raise taxes or fees or whatever. And I would argue that's because they see putting in some of the little money, they get all this other money coming back. And I think that's probably a good argument.
So 2 years down the road, crystal ball this, we'll be having this argument again. We may be debating this again. Do you think businesses will still be in support of it? I
think actually that there had been some studies already after the first year or so of Medicaid expansion that there had been much less use of emergency rooms for just basically primary care, and that the hospitals had seen a drop in their costs, uncompensated costs, a pretty dramatic drop in their uncompensated costs, and that's what the argument is, that's what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens to insurance premiums, but it's probably not. It's not a direct correlation where lower uncompensated costs means lower premiums, because there's a lot of other stuff going on in the healthcare economy that.
Right, there's a lot of background noise that's moving this.
Exactly. I think that the argument that at least it's helping to keep them down Although even the increase is down.
Yeah, that's right. If the increase would have been 4, it's 3.
Yeah,
that's a big
something like that.
difference.
Exactly.
Well, we're out of time in this, but when we come back, we're going to continue talking about things business, focusing on family business issues. So please stay with us.